Hello everybody, I'm Nam.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Jason.
And today we're going to be talking about making a Netrunner cube.
Yes, good.
First, you have to understand what the concept of drafting is.
Drafting is a form of playing a constructed deck card game. Usually, like with Netrunner, just with like Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! You build the decks with your card pool beforehand, you play with those decks. Drafting kind of makes a spin on it. Kind of a twist, because your card pool that you build the deck from is limited, which is why it's called limited play. An example of draft is Magic is commonly used. To show you how draft works, it's way better than talking about it. To show you how draft works, everyone, like say all three of us will do this. We all did do what Nam's doing. So you open a pack, and then you go,
which one is the best card? And then you're trying to take a bunch of cards. It's like sports draft. They get players, except in this case you're drafting cards. So you take cards to make your deck with. But what's going to happen is, let's pretend I like this card the best. I take it, I give the pack to the next person, and everybody passes the pack around.
I give my pack that I took a card from to Jason. Jason gives it to Nam. I go through here and take a card. And then Jason's going to do the same thing. And we keep doing this through multiple packs of cards. What this does is instead of having all of the cards in the game available, we just have the cards from the packs that we drew and the cards that we took. And there's also the competition, there's almost a game of drafting before you actually play any other game, because you're going through and trying to, compete against everyone else for what card you take. This is really easy when you have, like Magic, you have booster packs, because the cards themselves are already randomized, so it kind of works with it. With Netrunner, we can't really open a data pack and start passing it around like this. It doesn't work.
There's 3 copies of everything, so everybody could just basically get what they wanted, or they could see. It's very predictable.
Also, every draft would be exactly the same, so you won't get much going. So how do we solve this? How do we get around this for a limited card game like Netrunner? But first, what's the difference between a collectible card game like Magic or a living
card game?
I'm sorry, living card game like Netrunner?
In this case, in the world of Magic the Gathering, it's a collectible card game, so when you buy packs, all of the cards are completely random, but there's actually not a very easy way to get all of the cards. So if you really wanted to get multiple copies of every card, it would probably cost you a lot of money, because some cards are not easily available, they're more rare than others, and so on.
With a living card game, especially the Fantasy Flight games, they have it made so you can basically, what you buy, what you want is what you get. What you buy is what you get. It's very easy to just follow the release schedule and you get all the cards released. One of the nice parts about this is it's cheaper. You don't have to chase rares.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting when you buy a certain booster.
Right.
And if you look at some of our previous strategy videos, you might look back and say, I didn't get any packs from a certain cycle, but I want these couple cards. Which packs do I need? You could targetly purchase what you.
So the problem with the LCG is it gets rid of limited play, like drafting, like booster draft, or sealed play, which is a different type of Magic limited play. However, there is a third type of limited play that kind of arose within the Magic world and expanded other things, and that's called Cube.
The thing about a Magic Cube, the original intent, I believe, was to have a nice limited pool to play from, but you didn't have to keep on spending money to get those randomized booster packs. Number one. Number two, if there was only certain cards that were amazing that you wanted to play with all the time, but that you didn't get a chance to because you didn't have enough or it wasn't competitive, you could put one copy in the cube and it would be there for you to use. There's multiple reasons why you would want to build a cube for such limited play.
So imagine this box is filled with Magic cards. It's not, but imagine it is. Actually, it is filled with Magic cards, but that's a side. Instead of having a bunch of packs you buy for the booster deck and relying on that randomization, you have a set pool of cards that you make beforehand, and you can engineer for whatever you want. You can make a power cube with all the most powerful cards in Magic, so when you're drafting, it's, oh, look at this, oh, look at this. Or you can do the complete opposite and do a popper or crap cube and have nothing but draft chaff in there. Draft off of that. And that's a whole completely different type of fun.
Yes.
But the way you do it...
Oh, man. The skill you need to play a crap cube. Oh, anyway.
It's awesome. So the way you do it is, so you have this pool of cards. So then you're going to pull out a chunk of the cards, and everyone gets chunks of cards to be the equivalent of a pack.
Right.
So then everyone has their chunk of cards. You get your chunk, you get your chunk. But just as an example, so all of a sudden, we have this set base of cards, and then we do what we were doing before. And we pick our cards.
We try to make the best decks. So each time, you're not just choosing random willy-nilly cards. You're trying to choose the cards that will be best for your strategy, or for the deck that you're going to construct. Now,
see, now I'm actually looking because I actually want to draft now.
Right.
Anyways,
in this case, these are actually Netrunner cards because Jeremy here has created the Netrunner cube.
let it be noted, I did not create it. In the most recent video we filmed, I talked about stimhack.com. If you go to stimhack.com, there's an article on cube drafting for Netrunner that I read, and I was like, yes, this must be done. However, I didn't feel like buying a whole new set of cards. I also didn't want to do it the way they did it. We'll get into building in a little bit here.
Basically, what we would like to talk about is what do you do when somebody in your play group, in our case, it was Jeremy, builds a cube? How do you play it? So how would you draft it, and how would you play it? So let's talk about it. The way that you set it up is that we would draft identities first. So let's take a look at some of the identities that you would put together. You would draft both corp identities and runner identities.
Well, before we get to that,
okay.
there's some base rules with it. But Netrunner has building restrictions based on faction and based on influence. So the way we get around this for draft is whatever you draft, you can put in your deck. Normally, Gabriel Santiago will say 45 card deck minimum and 15 influence. We play with 40 card minimum on all of the cards, they have that, and no influence.
Infinite influence.
Infinite influence. And that's not just cards that even, like for instance, agendas don't have an influence bar, so you can't include them in different decks. Screw it. Put it in the decks.
If you draft an agenda that's a Jinteki agenda, but you want to play your Wayland identity, in draft, you can do it.
If you draft it,
yes.
You can play it.
Play your Astrostrip pilot program and play your hostile takeover right next to it.
Or, my favorite combo, play your hostile takeover to give you bad publicity, and play your clone retirement to remove the bad publicity.
We haven't done that yet, but...
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's done it. I've seen someone else do it.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that way, basically, whatever we draft, we can use. So, structure, we have IDs. For us, we draft all of the IDs at once. Now, there's enough here that if we do 4-player draft, this is set for 4 players. This cube is designed for 4 players. So, each player would get 4 identities, and we would draft like you saw before. Then, we're going to go through all of the cards. We're going to go through all the corp and all the runner. Now, there are different ways you can do this. Your pack size can vary. We do packs of 15, and then everyone's going to look at, there's going to be 4 packs of 15 per person. And even though there's 60 cards on the table at a time, you're going to get 15 of those cards. So times 4 packs, you end up with 60 cards. With a minimum deck size of 40, you have plenty of build space. There's plenty of room there to work with. So you're gonna have, you're gonna build a deck out of those cards. Same agenda restrictions, same everything. We do that with corp. We do that with runner. So this cube right here has 240 corp cards, 240 runner cards, 16 IDs, and then some dummy agendas. They're crappy agendas that if you didn't draft enough agendas, you can still meet deck requirements.
Right, because we still do have an agenda point minimum based on deck size. Although here, every corp can go down to 40, so you might only run 18 agenda points with a 44 card deck, or you might go more. But we are drafting both corp and runner
IDs.
At the same
Yes, so you
time.
might get a pack that for corp IDs.
Right, or you might say, draft a corp I really want. Draft a corp I might want as a backup. Get stuck with 2 corp, and then, oh good, I gotta run to the last one. Sometimes it happens. Makes it interesting.
An alternate approach is you can just do dummy IDs. Everyone has 40 minimum card limit, infinite influence, and that's it. No one has identities. No one has any extra abilities. I think that's boring.
Me too.
Yeah.
I like the ability of the identity.
Also, knowing what your ability is could affect your draft choices, so just changing up that will allow you to draft differently. Otherwise, you might draft the same every time.
I've gotten noise in a draft, and you're like, well, it's a draft. How are you going to make sure you get enough viruses? Viruses aren't always popular, so maybe you can go for them more.
It's totally
Sometimes
doable.
you get away with a decent noise deck.
Now, you might think that, first of all, Jeremy said that there's 240 cards in here.
240 for each side.
Oh, 240 for each side, so that's 480.
480 cards, and then IDs.
The IDs and the extras.
Now, if you count up all the cards, there's probably way too many cards. He's obviously got multiple copies, so it's not like a traditional Magic Cube where there's only 1 copy of each.
Right.
There is multiple copies in here. Eventually, maybe I might drift towards 1 copy. How you build your cube is completely up to you. That's one of the beauties of Cube, is you can kind of build it how you want. Now, on StimHack and other places I've seen, basically their approach has been for Netrunner, just have a set of all the cards, smack them together, and then remove cards until you have the right amount that you want. I have a different approach, but we'll get into that later. Now let's just talk about playing. So you draft all the cards. Now you have 4 identities. You have a stack of 60 Corp cards and a stack of 60 Runner cards. You just deck build right there. You just go through, build it how you want. You'll see people do it different ways. A real fun thing to do, whether you're into Magic or not, is my favorite part of any draft is after all the cards have been drafted, before they start playing, seeing everyone how they arrange all their cards and how they go through them. You'll have people going, yes, 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 maybe, no, no, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Is that a no?
Or it's like they put too many in the no piles, like, oh crap, I have to use some of these.
And then you see them start laying things out, and I don't know. You know, type. It's actually a lot of.
It's actually pretty interesting.
When you're not doing it and watching people do it, it's a lot of fun.
So how do you do it personally? Just give some variety.
Yes, yes, maybe, no. That's how I do it. So.
Yep, I tend to. I mean, this is Netrunner, so for Corp, I tend to do my agendas first.
Oh yeah, he goes through, separates the agendas and the ice.
I do it by
assets.
agendas, ice, economy, and tricks. Those are my 4 piles.
Oh, okay.
And then I go through the piles, make sure I have enough ice, make sure I have enough economy, get my agenda mix right, see how many of those tricks I can keep. And if there's any auto, not includes any no's, those get tossed right away. But most of the time I separate into 4 piles and then build from there. How about you, Nam?
I don't know. I kind of take a strange organic approach at first, where it's like I just kind of grab cards that are definite yeses. If it's not a definite yes, I just leave it in the pile until I get to a point where it's like, okay, now I need to cherry pick some cards. So then at that point I'll do counts, like, or put all the ice together. It's like I count ice, decide, oh, I need more of those, or I count economy cards, I count those. So I mean, it's a little bit. I don't make as many piles, basically.
Gotcha.
You can also do the first time drafter technique, which is, this is what I drafted. It's always your first step. Important thing to remember with drafting is as you pass the packs, when you go from one pack to the next, pass to the one direction, the one pack, the next pack pass the opposite direction. Go back and forth, that way you're not getting fed by the same person each time. So say you have a really strong drafter on one side of you, you could be really at a disadvantage.
Yeah,
that's per round. So like, don't switch in between.
No, don't switch. Yeah.
So do one whole pack
of cards counterclockwise. Clockwise.
Yep.
So then you build your decks and you play. That's basically all there is to it.
Yeah.
You'll get some really interesting games because you have interesting combos. The decks may be less focused on things.
They're very unpredictable.
Yeah, that too.
So you're like, oh, it's such and such faction. How do I hit a Neural, and then a Victor, and then a Snare, and then, oh, there's a Bernie's Mai on the server. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I can't, you can't assume that, oh, hey, they're Jinteki, they'll have Jinteki tricks. They might not, or they could be NBN, and they just have tons of Jinteki tricks, because they could have drafted them.
Most of the time, you won't get scorched by the tag you get from Ichi. I have. Yeah, there's only a certain number of cards, so the kind of thing is, the other aspect of drafting is ooh, I drafted all of this card, so I know I won't see it. Yes. I'm pretty sure, I drafted a bunch of Neural Katana. I'm pretty sure no one else has any Neural Katana, so you can just start face checking all you want.
Yes, because you know you're not going to die to 3 net damage.
Yes. And there often, depends on if you know the composition of the cube or not, and there is some learning there if you really get into it, but sometimes there's more than 3 copies of things in the cube.
Yep.
So if you get 4 copies of a card, you can play with it.
Good for you, because clearly you're taking it for a reason.
Yes.
And obviously Jeremy thought it would be good enough that multiple people would want it.
Yes.
So that's why he put that many copies.
Yes. So there's only a couple, but it can happen.
Yeah.
Whatever you draft, you can use.
All I can say is this, if you've played the game a bunch and you haven't had a chance to play this, give it a try. We all adore it. It's really great.
It's hilarious the first time you do it, and then it's just really fun.
Yes.
Even though it can end up with hilarious results.
Yes.
It's just...
And we like it so much, I will almost draft and not play. The drafting itself is nerve-wracking and interesting and fun.
Part of the beauty of Netrunner versus Magic Draft is Netrunner has, like, in Magic, there's no real deck restrictions other than no more than 4 copies per card, except basic lands. Your limits are by your colors, what colors you can cast. All right, I have so much black, I have black and green, it's not like I can draft white near the end of the draft. In Netrunner, it's all the same currency. So there are limits. Well, I have a bunch of agendas, I need economy, but that's a little less of a restriction. So a lot of times what Netrunner Draft turns into is, oh, what do I take? I want to take everything.
Yes.
I want to take this and this and this. Oh.
There are times when we're drafting it, and Jeremy's just like, guys, I'm taking this whole thing. Just, you're done.
Go home.
All right, guys, I'm changing the rules on this one. Everyone take their pack.
And there's also packs where you're like, wow, have fun with that crap.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, because that's then, how do you work with it? What do you take?
Just the drafting and the deck building part alone, if you need practice deck building, you can just do the draft and deck building portion, and that'll totally help you.
Yes, and while you're drafting, think about how you want to build it. How much ice do you want? How much economy? How many icebreakers? Do you have that covered? Thinking those things while you're drafting, thinking about those deck building things, helps you get a better draft and build a better deck.
And there's also advanced draft technique. Trying to you're going to see the same pack multiple times, but less and less will be into it.
Yeah.
You can try to figure out what other people have taken based on what's missing, and go, oh, I think he's doing this, and he's doing this. I think she's doing this. Oh man, that stuff's missing. There's also related to that. I like this card and I like this card. Which one do I take? Well, I think other people want this one. This one might come back to me.
Yes.
So you send it out into the wild and go, come back.
Come back.
And then you'll sometimes pick up a pack and go,
Yes!
That, to be honest, that happens more often, I think, in this, because it's like, ooh, I want this, and then you pass it around, and you think people are going to take it, and it's still there.
Right.
I'm like,
So-
what?
and
That's
so-
amazing.
And priorities change. It might be you have all the ice you need, and 2 of the other people are ice starved.
The one thing that we've mostly just been talking about drafting in reference to Corp, but one strategy I tried while drafting as runner was take as many of one particular breaker, knowing that I'd taken many of the ice of that type prior in the Corp draft. So I tried that. It didn't work because Jeremy balanced his cube well enough that
Right.
there were still enough breakers in every type for everybody.
Yeah, but that also brings up an interesting point. Usually we draft Corp first, and that
Yes.
can influence your decisions when you draft runner. And we feel that that is the more fun way we've found to do it. But
Well,
hey,
we haven't tried really runner first then Corp, have we?
try it.
We could try
We could
it.
try it.
So, but
more
I mean,
seriously, yeah.
I think it would. I think it would really change up how you Corp. Because if you do one first, you'll just draft it straight up how good it is. But if you draft the second one after you've drafted the first one, doesn't matter. You'll probably adjust.
Yeah.
So making a cube. I mentioned before, a lot of people just take a bunch of the the Netrunner cards and smash them together. I wanted to take a different approach. I wanted to try to balance it so that certain cards weren't more important. For instance, if you go through a list of all the corporation cards, like, it might have changed, but this was a few months ago when I initially did this, there's less economy cards that are used more often. So when you're drafting, you need to make economy priority 1, because there's only so many of them. And if you get those really good economy cards, you're going to win. You're going to win over the other corps because you have that economic advantage, which is a big deal. I didn't like the idea of that. I didn't want to have people to know the cube to be able to play it well. I tried to construct it in order to make the relative percentages of certain cards similar to any standard deck. I started with, what are the essentials for a deck? What does every deck need? What does every runner deck need?
Breakers, economy.
Breakers and economy. What does every corp deck need?
Ice, agendas, and economy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
5 categories. I went through a bunch of decks online, some tourney winning decks, just some random decks I took off a Meteor, and took the percentages of those. And I wanted to try to match that in the cube. Or at least match that for availability, like if I have 60 cards, do I have enough econ cards in that to make a certain percentage of that 40 card deck? That's kind of what I was going for. So the cube construction, I tried to do it that way. You can just slap the cards together and do them. A lot of people do that, and they seem to have as much fun doing cube as we do. So
Yeah.
that's up to you. Also, the benefit or drawback of the way I do it is these are not actual Netrunner cards. I did not want to pay for the whole set again. So instead I printed out...
He already has 3 core sets, so I mean, he would be just purchasing
I think all
4th,
of
5th,
us
and 6th.
have 3 core sets now?
Yeah, we all have 3
Yeah,
core
we
sets.
all
So you got your third one?
I got my third one, yeah.
You caved. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that these are nicely printed images, and then there's a magic card as a backer.
And that's also why they're all sleeved.
That's also why they're all sleeved, but that's important for
It is,
cube.
for
Yeah, for
wearability
thickness, so
and-
that when you're shuffling, you can't tell that, oh, that one's just a piece of paper, that one's the proxy.
Yeah, stuff
Yeah.
like that, or but for proxies, also just for cube in general.
Yeah.
It's important to sleeve for cubes. In
Yeah,
general.
yeah, wear and tear.
So
and
trust me,
markings
we
and-
don't want to like rip them off or anything. FFG, we don't want to rip them off. We bought
Or
our
GGF.
3 core sets.
One other thing important with cubes, I've read about magic cubes, and for this, is adjusting the cube between games. It's good to get feedback from the people who played it. Needs more of this, needs more of this, needs less of this. We're not getting into too much details of building it right now, especially since if you go to BoardGameGeek.com, the Android Netrunner section, there's a blog called Android to the Third Power. Adventures in Netrunner Cube, written by me.
Malhaku.
Malhaku. If you go to that blog and start at the beginning, go through it, it kind of goes through the steps, has some fun stuff. Haven't had a lot of content on there lately because there hasn't been a whole lot of content to put up. We play Cube, we like it, but I haven't had any new like revelations or
He hasn't
stuff
changed
to share.
it, but one of the things that he did was after every Cube game, he would actually hand out survey sheets with a bunch of questions, and he would have everybody who played in the Cube answer those questions. And after those, that's how you fine tune like the
That's how I
various
fine tune
little
some
things.
various things. And
Yep, you tweak some things based on preferences and availability, and also a little bit fine-tune the Corp Runner win level balance.
that's another thing I wanted to try to do is the great part is balance card in the card pool. Like they have to deal with making cards and keeping Corp Runner balanced. I can do it in here just by going, oh, Corp's winning too much. Take some of the powerful Corp cards out.
Or
I'll throw salvage in.
Yep, Runner's winning too much? Oh, we'll just do less account siphons.
Less account siphons, a little less money, maybe, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it takes work, but it's not that bad. I mean, it's really easy to modify your cube to your play style, to your groups.
If you like deck building, making a cube is easy. You just have to manage just a bunch of more cards. That's basically it.
Spreadsheets are awesome. I think that's all the main stuff.
Oh, that being said, Jeremy also liked to throw in a few little tricks in there. He does have some old-style Netrunner cards
I do have some original recipe Netrunner cards in here.
in the cube as surprises. For example...
That's not an FFG Netrunner card. That's because
Nope.
it's an old Netrunner card. I have a few of these sprinkled in.
Maybe 10, 20?
Like 10 per side, I think. It's like
Okay.
12 per side, is I
There
think
you
what it
go.
is.
So-
And key thing with that is you want to be careful with that. Remember, they're not engineered for the exact same game. Netrunner's the same game, but they're not engineered for the same game. We already had one I put in, and it went because it was way too powerful.
Yeah,
So
corporate downsizing, too good. Also, keep in mind, if you're sprinkling in original, traces work a lot different, so the numbers are a lot
traces really, you can't really do traces.
No.
And don't just buy a bunch of old Netrunner cards and throw in cards just because they look like they would work, because the trace is completely different. And the functionality and the way they were designed is completely different. So trace cards really don't work.
Don't work.
Oh, also, so while we're there, let's just mention pretty much, I know we've said them in different videos, but let's aggregate them all here. So what are the primary differences between the old Netrunner and the new Netrunner, just in case people want to put those cards in here?
Oh, primary difference you need to know is that for runners, instead of events, they're called preps. Exact same thing. For Corp, instead of assets, they're nodes. Also, instead of remote servers, they were data forts. They referred to all the savers as data forts. Those are the main differences. And then trace is a whole different banana altogether. You can look it up. It's complex.
Barriers were called walls.
Barriers are
Back
called
then.
walls. Yes.
Money was called bits, and
Bits.
it's not. It's like this little star
It's
with
a little
a number.
starburst with the number in it
Yeah.
instead of the number and the credit symbol.
Yep.
But other than that, that's pretty much, I think, all the primary differences that you need to know.
That's the basic differences. Definitely give Cube a try. If you have any questions, ask me on the blog. Ask us in the video comments. I'll be checking them along with Nam. If you have any questions, just ask and be glad to help it out. I want to spread this to everyone as much as possible. In fact, I'll spread it to everyone to the point where I had designers at the plugged-in event sign my box.
This is a really pimped out box. Not only is it a nice wooden box, but he took it, he showed it off at the last event
That's
that you went
Stuart, and that's Damon Stone.
And it locks.
Yeah, it locks too.
to. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next video. All right,
Take it
bye.
easy.
Bye now.
I wanted to get that before we did anything else.
Yeah,
Do you guys have any other?
bloopers.
Okay, no. We'll do
No,
that later. Wait, I just wanted to get the. Let's get the. So yes.
So remember, do the cube.
Do the cube. No.
Do the cube.
No.
No.
That's
No.
what
Do
she
the
said.
do. Come on. Remember, do the cube. Do the do. Come on.
I know what you were going for, but
All right.
I was just about to do it with you, and then it's like,
No.
no. I took a different approach. Do we want to get into that now? We're doing that later. Yeah, I know. I just realized I don't know why I kept talking.
You keep on talking.
Oh, right. So
How about them Mets?
you realize he has this on right now.
Yeah.
You have me on talking with my mouth full. Once he posts this, so I won't make it.
Don't make the blooper reel.
I know.
We just wanted to do this.
They can go to hell. Each. I don't know. That depends. That's how you.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Sorry.
You okay?
Go.
Hence the word cube.
Actually,
I know
cubes.
cubes
Cubes,
eight.
cubes are originally designed for 8 usually.
Well, but 4, 8, 12 pairs.
All right. No.
Anyway,
What's next on our agenda? Or you can do the complete opposite. You can make a power cube with all the most
Bless you.
powerful.
Yes. We're having some Triscuits. For those of you who don't know, I have this unhealthy addiction to Triscuits.
No such thing. Anyway.